Hi, I'm Chris from airwindows, and I don't have a plugin for you today, but for anybody who's doing programming and making, for instance, games, this might be an interesting little exploration, because I am going to show you the whole path through my game Counterpart. Counterpart is a video game based on a sort of cyberspace aesthetic. And it's been a very interesting path developing it. It's taken several years, and I've gone through many phases. I did a launch on Steam Greenlight that was doing really well, and then I did another launch on Steam Greenlight that destroyed it and caused it to fail epically at that. And I've spent a long time getting together everything the way that I felt it needed to be. As you can see, it's a kind of a cyberspace aesthetic, and it says bots 500, and there's an FPS meter there. This is a bot. This little colored ball there is a bot. Now, there can be any number of things. Like here is an early version of what I'm calling the Guardian. And that's the thing that chases you, and if it touches you, you die, and the game is over. But the purpose of playing the game is to find the bot, or the sphere, or the marble, or whatever you'd want to call it, that looks exactly like you. And you go up to it and touch it, and then you move on to the next level. And the number of bots you're searching through will increase at the same time. So as you can see on this one, this is an early screenshot. You've got these two guys over here who look the same, and this pack over here look the same, and this one could be different. We don't know whether that is the one that looks like you. This guy looks different. This one is the same as these ones. And the important thing about these is that they act, and here's a sort of global view of a whole bunch of them. That's another global view. There's also been this terrain stuff where you're zooming around in this transparent wireframe terrain. And that's important for a number of reasons. One, it's my image of a kind of cyberspace aesthetic. I learned upon launching it that people thought that was incredibly tacky. That doesn't change the fact that that's the aesthetic I was trying to do, so we kind of stuck with that, or I kind of stuck with that. This is a very early one where you can see there is a highlight there. Now we have a code for causing this wireframe, and the code was this. It's a little wireframe camera thing. And I included this in the code, and you can tell the program to do wireframe and then attach it to a camera and do a rendering pass with the camera that shows only the wireframe. And then you do a different camera for showing these bots, these spheres. They're being drawn in a separate camera pass. We can see that there is a specular highlight here, which I didn't end up sticking with, but also that this is a very line arty kind of look. Now, this is an early version of the game. It's about the earliest version that I have recorded. And we've got your bots with the colorful patterns. Now, there's an important thing about the patterns that I'm going to mention right up front, and that is their brains are based on these patterns. Here's one. So we have this little pattern. It is, let's see, 128 by 128, as we can see, and RGB color. So each one of these squares is an RGB number, and all of these patterns are being loaded into the game. When you have a bot with this appearance that's drawn on it, what it does is it starts scanning through the texture line by line, and the color of the dot that it's on will tell you where it wants to go in the world. Like, we'll be going from here to here, and in this area it will want to go to the place that is dark black. That will correlate. I have code in here. In fact, I can show you the code quite easily. At this point, we're not really worried about selling the game. I hope people enjoy playing it, but this is going to be a long exploration into exactly what I was up to with it and telling all of the stuff that I did. Let me see now. Setup bots is probably a good enough place. We're going to skip that for the moment. So what we've got is a thing where we have a range of distance from a central point, and we have a hue angle. If I'm not mistaken, I had that initially it was going to vary, and now all of the red bots will always go to the same place on the map. Excuse me. And here is our formula for where they go. It is they're starting at a height of about 5,000, and then they will look down and go to the point on those mountains where that spot is. But one side of it is starting at 403 plus a sine factor for this adjusted hue angle, and then one side of it is cosine for this adjusted hue angle. It's all scaled by the distance. What that means is if these are all 0 and the hue of this is going to matter, for instance, up here I can plainly see there's some very dark blues, but that's going to count as a blue just like these do. It's going to go to the spot that represents as black. Now that may also be and I've got this HSL color. I think that's from textbook code, if I'm not mistaken. Essentially, if we have a color wheel where it's like red on the top and then it goes all around to green and then back around to red again, then what we have is locations that they go to. And our distance here is scaled, but it's also it's 1 minus saturation. So extremely saturated colors will tend to go to the center, and very unsaturated colors will tend to go out to the widest range of the circle. And each of these colors independently is a new location on the map. It'll step through these based on what the mood of the bot is, and we'll keep going. So you'll have these behaviors where it'll be in this one place, and then it'll try to go to some other places and then go back again. With a range of colors like this, like here's some nice saturated colors, the behavior of the bot as far as what places it goes to is very complicated. Or it might not be all that complicated, but kind of hectic. For instance, the colors, I'm not sure what the hues are of this. The formula will come up with them. This looks more greenish, some of these look more reddish. But the intensity of the color, the saturation, I'm not sure what I'm doing with value, but this has the capacity of maybe making the bot zip around like a maniac, and if that didn't, this definitely would. So what we get is the appearance of a bot that's drawn with all these wacky colors, so it looks kind of crazy and hectic, but then the places it goes to, there's always going to be a lot of this lime green, so it'll go to those. There's bright reds, there's yellows, and it'll try to race around to all these different spots. So not only does this look hectic, it also moves hectic. Whereas by contrast, excuse me, I am sick. This guy's going to stay in pretty much one spot, but it's a different spot from, say, let's find another color of a guy, the yellow, and, or say, here's an interesting one. Since we're scanning across this way, this one is going to be hanging around in this sort of blue-green zone pretty consistently, but periodically it's going to zip over to where the blue lives, and that's an entirely different spot. And after it's done that, it will always run over to here and then return to its sort of green area. These all represent spots in a color wheel over a map. And I can show you the map because it is here. This is a height map. You can generate height maps for importing into Unity, and white is tall places, and then black is low places. The blurred areas are smoother areas, and then sharp edges are cliffs. And this is all kind of drawn as a, it goes taller towards the center. And it was drawn by starting with this background. As you can see, it's a sort of star-shaped thing. There's a brush. I forget exactly what brush this was. I think these may be pyramidal shapes. And I'm using a probably lighten or screen brush mode and drawing onto there. And then I continued it by adding some dark locations. Those are also a dark brush mode. I wanted really low areas. And then this whole thing with the roads and ramps and stuff, that is different colors just being scribbled across everything. It leads to an interesting sort of shape where a lot of our road type areas are relatively flat, because they're flat colors and it's a pretty solid rendering. And then we've got a few more colors in here. We've got a additional layers causing interference between the colors, and that's 100%. This one's being applied with hard light, which is an overlay mode at a very strong intensity. And then those are normal. That one's just green. That one's raising things. It may or may not be present for the actual height map that I settled on. But this is how I generated the height map. I generated it in Photoshop in this way. There's another picture of the wireframey stuff. You can see that I have a little zap. An important thing about this zap is that it is a sprite and it's part of the particle system. And this light part, it's either white against black or white against transparent, I forget which. But again, that's done in Photoshop. It's a little zappy sort of splotch. And it's like this, but the way that particles hit things in Unity is if the overall picture hits the thing you're aiming at. So the splotch is like this, but the actual image is about this big. So we have a sprite with a tiny little white area in the center and then a whole bunch of blank space. If you touch something with the edge of this, it counts as a hit. So using the little zap here and then expanding the size of the sprite that you're using to draw it makes the shots more forgiving. It's easier to hit things if your sprite has a big transparent area on the outside edge, because if you clip something with the outside edge of the sprite, it counts as a hit. It's a good way to work around having stuff that, like say if we were shooting at this fellow here and you were faintly off, if there's that much transparent space on the outside, you might still hit it. Makes it a little bit more forgiving. So the way these guys work is we shoot at them. You can see that I have some of the features of Counterpart in place. We don't have the wireframe stuff I ended up doing, but we do have a slight fog effect here. When you shoot the zaps at these guys, they will correlate the image, because remember, we've got these, right? There's a image, and we might have this and this. If you are using this texture and you can't see yourself, but you're looking for one with this texture, and you're talking to one of this texture, you also have a scan line. You could be treated the same way. So if we're talking to this fella and we're talking to them and have caught them at a moment where their texture has this little orange or red spot, and it cross-correlates with you in the same place. So when you're firing at these guys, you're not doing them damage. You're targeting them at the moment of where their brain is at as they scan through all of these lines. And you're going to ask them, stop, the spot that you're on, is that the same color as the spot in that place on me? And I can generate a big old sort of data file keeping track of all those values and then cross-compare them fairly easily. In fact, I'll take a moment and show you the code for that. This is all part of the AI, and this is one of the challenges of Counterpart, is that I was trying to put this out and nobody had any idea what it meant because the functionality of this is hidden. It's hidden. You can't see what this is actually doing. So here we have the bot movement. We have generated as many copies of this as we have individual bots zipping around. And I always call them bots even though they look like marbles or spheres because they have brains. They have brains. They think about what you're doing. And their voice pointer is like this. So when you hit them, they sort of go through a lot of additional thinking. They panic a little bit and they will more likely go to new places or run off. It causes them to have a behavior that they might not otherwise have had. And we're looking at the voice pointer for red, green, and blue. And we're keeping track of the difference between these two things. It's an absolute value. And if you are different from the other guy, your left and right and center, R, G, and B, will be a higher. I don't exactly remember why I called it left and right and center, but it becomes it's a variable now. So that will show how different you are from that other bot at that point. It's the same pointer. You're just comparing yourself with the other bot and seeing how different you are at that point. It'll give you feedback. As you can see, the voice pitch is pretty close to 3 minus these 3 factors scaled to where it covers a proper range of beeps and noise. And it'll beep back at you as it gets hit. If the match is exactly the same, your match is your identity numerically. It's which of these textures you are. And player movement, your match, is the one that the player is searching for. So if you are the same thing, then it's always going to be high-pitched beeps and continuous. This bit is a separate bit. What we've got here is a little bit of code where we're taking the background music, which I'll show you later, and quantizing the position where it's to start so that the beep will hit on the beat. And it's a sort of Mickey Mousing effect. It causes the entire soundtrack, all of the bumps and beeps and things like that, to go along with the rhythm of the track, which I feel helps the whole thing out immensely. And then we tell what the size is of that and so on and so forth. So as we're scanning through this long chain of what's basically just strips of data values, if the bot is the same color as you, it will respond with a higher pitched beep, and it will also be more likely to fire a little zap in the direction of the one that you're looking for. Now there's a catch. And again, this is another hidden thing. If you start the game and you have no idea that's how it works, but here's the catch. The bot only will tell you where to look if it has seen your counterpart. Like maybe we'll go back to, we'll fire up Photoshop again, dum-de-dum. We'll go back to here. Say this is red. Like I can, no, I guess I don't have a round shaped color picker for here. Okay, no problemo. Unless I don't remember whether I can find one in here or not. This is Photoshop 4, so some people might find it to be a little old school. But suppose this is red, and this is a green, yellow, blue. And the guy that you want starts here, and you start here and you're talking to a bot that's here. If it's been hanging around in this spot, it's never seen the one you're looking for unless that one jumped really high or something or wandered around. So if you questioned it, it could be as cooperative as you'd want, but it doesn't know where the other one is. Then, if the one you're looking for is going all over the place, it's just wandering everywhere, it might come over to here, at which point that one sees it, and then it goes off away again. And it's over here, And when you ask the one that's hanging around in this place, that one will say that it was here, because that's the last place it saw it. So there is a whole dynamic around using these bots and behaving as if they have brains, though you can't see the brains and you can't see that any of this is happening, but it's built into the game. It's a way, the whole point of the game was making a thing where you could have like 800 or 2,000 of these bots just swarming you, and you'd be asking them questions by firing those little zaps at them and reasoning out how likely it is, like, that this one is lying to you, that it's seen the one that you're after. You could get one that is, say, goodbye Photoshop. I didn't end up using normals. If you have this, and then you have this, if you are this, you're going to vary from this one a fair amount, whereas, no, that's still got a lot of contrast in it. How about this one? Maybe not so much. So if you're this fella and you're comparing yourself to this, there are going to be many places where it's wildly different and some places where it's maybe a little more similar, like the white compared with the fairly light lemon color. So it'll switch around madly between light or high and low beeps. Whereas if you're this fella and you're comparing yourself with this one, there's going to be some disparity, but there aren't any really wild changes like this guy. You compare this one with either of these, and big changes all over the place. Just sudden alterations of pitch from how very different they are. Or here's another one. This one also more like two basic patterns, but very different sounds. Now, the result of that is that when you start questioning these by making them beep, they beep inconsistent melodies, because the difference between yourself and the other one is going to be, it's going to repeat itself. There's going to be a consistency to it. Like this guy compared with this guy, it's going to be a certain degree of difference, but it's going to be a fairly, like, whereas this one's like, it's going to be big changes in the tunes that they play. And we got a lot of different tunes for them to play. I forget how many of these there are. Thank you for not opening them all. And 78 items. And thank you, macOS, for not hosing me with that. So what I did was I brought this to Greenlight. And we've got some fairly high resolution pictures. And I'd set it up in such a way where it was a deeper color. And this is also where I brought in this. The way that it behaves. This is also a very brightly colored version of Counterpart. Here is 617 bots. The idea was always to succeed with more and more of them. Factors that I mentioned about this, I've still got the name of it up here. These are just very simple panels with 1 pixel stripe of white and then an area of partly transparent black, just for looks. They're just in there to be looked at and to shade the extremes of the screen a little bit. What this says is -3 and quit -8. The idea was you had a timer, and if you found your counterpart within that time, you got boosted that many number of bots for the next time. And if you went over your time, it would start taking bots away. But if you quit as you went over the time, it would take 3 times as many bots away. So it would put pressure on you to be zipping around, deciding whether or not you were going to keep looking for the one you were searching for, or quit out of there and sort of take the penalty. And we had the same mechanic of I fired at this one, and it is clearly firing in the direction of one that it's found. Here's another color guy. I was working with the look of this the entire time. And the reason the texture looks different is because I'm using a technique for vibrating the camera angle very slightly between frames and then motion blurring them together. And in that way I get to have the wireframe be clear at a certain distance and then have more of a field of view behavior, which you can see pretty clearly in, I think this, yeah, that's lots of them off in the background, and we're right up close to some lines here, so these are jittering back and forth very aggressively, whereas in the middle there you can kind of see it, and then in the far distance it's also jittering again, but I've carefully tried to make it only a very small amount of offset so that it kind of blurs off a little bit into the distance. And then I went and tried to relaunch, and I had a notoriously bad trailer. This is my logo for Crush All Boxes.
What if there was a new kind of classic arcade game?
Nobody liked the trailer voice. Nobody liked the moving text. I had this feature at the time, and this was ammo and speed, and ammo was limited. And then this, if you shot the bots, you would see the color of them on the top and the color of yourself on the bottom. So the shared colored bots would tell you where they saw
and risk attack by the terrifying Guardian.
It was cheesy enough to destroy my green light. We won't go here anymore. That was an embarrassing time. It did not actually work out very well for me. But it's almost just as well. I mean, green light's dying now anyhow, and it was time to go and figure out something else to do with all of this. It all started with some of these details, and it's probably time enough to have a look at the actual game itself. Here's where I've taken it. There were a number of things that I did also here, and I'll tell some of those as well. For instance, I spent a lot of time trying to get tracker music into Counterpart. It needed to have a sort of techno theme, and I wanted to get into a tracker program and make an IT or S3M, impulse tracker or a screen tracker, that had sort of digital game music that was more techno and less Nintendo, and used the filters of Scream Tracker, which have an interesting and characteristic sound, to make a kind of psytrance feel to it. And I finally succeeded in learning how to make the tracker music, brought it into Unity, and it crashed every time. I found Unity has a tendency of crashing every time a lot. Oh, hang on. Here, I'll show you something that I was telling you about. Check this out. It's not quite as wide as I thought, but here is what I was explaining, that you have the zaps, which lighten things that they're across, and the zap is this big, but the background is this big. So if you hit something with the edge of the black background, even though you can't see it in game, it makes the aiming a little bit easier, and that's a very good trick to use. I just realized I had that sitting right there. So what I'd ended up doing was going into Logic, which I am quite familiar with, and sort of writing my own music for that. Like here is the theme. Oh, we'll mute you. And it starts with a kick drum. This is out of the collection that I made for my Patreon patrons. It is a kind of techno kick drum. And so what we do is we added a bass. Here's my processing. I'm going to scoot it down a little bit. We can see that I'm using a trick, which is a program, a plugin that I made called Fracture, which is available for free for anybody who wants to use this. Without it, it's an electric bass. Mind you, I used Logic to quantize the durations of it, or quantize the attacks of it, so that it's a little fast, more tightly linked. It's supposed to go along with this hat. Here's a hat. What Fracture does is it sort of mutates the sound and causes it to get a little weird. So it adds a strangeness to it. I believe I can crank up the dry wet so you can hear it more clearly. Like this is without it. And that's with it. And it's sort of increasing and interfering with the sound. This is how I make an electric bass into a synthesizer. But the individual notes are not repetitive. The individual notes are being played with my thumb on electric bass. We also have a low frequency element, and that is BassKit and Mudslide. And Mudslide is sort of a low frequency exaggerator. Without these, you got just the bass again. But BassKit is being set up to do only a sub-octave. It's an octave down. And it's a kind of sloppy octave down. And there's some extraneous noises in there, so that's what Mudslide is for. Mudslide is just a tone shaper for electric basses. It's making it a little beefier. The combination is like this, and then with the bass, that's what my synthesizer that's really an electric instrument is all about. And then lastly, we have a sound effect that's a higher frequency sound that's just been slowed down amazingly. And it's designed to loop. That's what some of these there's a little crossfade there. In the final output of this, it loops. And the end theme is basically this. Now, it's going into a plugin called Console. This is using airwindows Console. That's also free. But what Console does is expands things out in an interesting and characteristic way. As a result, the kick drum that's the same sample every time will sound a little bit different each time it hits, and these things all kind of help prevent the very repetitive music from sounding repetitive. You can kind of get along with it a little easier. And then over here, I've got this. Maybe I want to shorten that a little bit. Guitar. If we take out the verb, we get this. I add a ride cymbal. Ride cymbal sounds like this. Seems to kind of fade up a little bit there. And then I also have this. Same sample. But these each have this plugin called Pocket Verb on them. And it's set to an effect called stretch. What that does is, if I turn it on, this one has a lot of dry in it. It makes that strange noise. It sounds kind of like pulse stretch. It's a special reverb algorithm. And then this one is all wet. So if we have this ping going through this one and turn it on, same sound file, but it's being produced into a different type of effect. And then, again, so these being set at all wet on stretch with different settings cause a stereo blend. And this is my ping for sort of the sonar thing. If you're closer to the bot, it will start firing this off more frequently. But if you're farther away, it fires it off so rarely that it's purely a sound effect. Then if I unmute the ride and ping, this is the final effect of what we've got with all of these full wet reverbs and the one that has some dry to it. And it'll actually sustain past the input because the reverbs declare a tail time, allowing them to keep making noise. And then it fades away there. So doing these things, and the reason I had them both in the same file is as follows. You can hear, we'll mute some of these guys, and we'll mute the space throb. It's in time. And in game, it'll sound kind of like this. See, it's in time. Now, I could also be playing the guitar ping at different speeds, but we've already got the bots beeping in time with the beat at different speeds too. So the guitar ping, it was okay to leave that kind of where it was. I've got the Google Font Jura for the appearance of it. Here is TransUI ping is the texture that I was using for those bots. As you can see, it's a white box and a black with transparency inside. That's what I was stretching to make the top and bottom thing. Because the whole purpose of the programming was always been about scaling it so that I could have hundreds or thousands of these bots. There are a number of things that help that happen. Like for a bot movement here, we've got the every single one of those spheres gets its own dedicated copy of this little program. It's built into the Unity object, and it wakes up and it assigns all these things and figures this various stuff out. I used to have more than one Guardian. Now there is just one, but I have a tag that still says Guardian North. And if you run into it, or if it runs into anything else that's not a terrain, and possibly even if it is a terrain, I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe I'm masking out the terrain somehow. But we increment a counter that makes it jump, and we do things with this audio source. And if you are the thing that it's run into, if the game object tag is player and we haven't ended, and the match is correct as well, what we do is the bot stops and we do a whole end of game thing. Otherwise, other things can happen. If you run into a bot that's not your counterpart too hard, it can be wrecked and destroyed. And if they bump into each other, they can do things like, if the ones that look exactly the same bump into each other, they can synchronize and they'll all start going around together, which I thought was amusing. You get these packs of bots running around. If they're different, it's possible that they will run away from each other. Again, this is all personality programming, AI programming, that you can't see upon actually playing the game, which is one of the things that the game struggled with. It got people vaguely interested in it, but here, a major challenge if you're doing something like this, try not to have everything cool about the game be stuff that you can't actually see when you play it. It's discoverable, and the idea is you explore it, you play the game, you're coming up to these bots, and things happen, like you shoot at one of them, and it seems to freak out and it runs away from you. And you go, oh, why did it do that? Well, it did that because you cycled it through its brain faster, and it hit a more distant target to go to. Or why are they traveling in packs? Why are these bots all going in a little cluster from somewhere to somewhere else? What's the story there? Well, that's what the colors of their texture said for them to do. But it behaves, even if you have thousands of them at once, like they're all doing something with volition. Like they have an agenda, like all these bots are moving together and they're going from somewhere to somewhere else. That's what I was after with this. And then you have the particle collision. We have an update factor here where the dolly transform means this. It means that on the physics steps, which are slightly slower than Unity normally does because all of this thinking is done in the physics steps, it's going to be in a place and it's going to decide to go to another place and it will have a direction to go. On the update steps, I'm sort of incrementally moving it in the direction that it was intending to get, so that I wouldn't call it motion blur because it's not blurring it, but I was getting sort of pixelated motion. It was moving in jumps. It was a strobe effect. And so that was my technique of getting around it. Might be a slightly sloppy technique. If I try it again, I'll try it from scratch and I might come up with a different result. But here we have them moving, and then this is a special thing for getting these large numbers of bots. It starts up here. And I like having these in long lists of things. I don't like having it all functional and calling millions of little things because the flow of program operation goes from top to bottom and I can see where it all is. And if there's a lot here, I want to see that there's a lot here. I don't want it hiding in other things and slowing stuff down, but you can't see where any of the slowness lives. So I've always liked that. This is what starts that thing on the bottom. I used to start it like every frame was terrible, but I learned to do it properly. And on Awake, we start a coroutine. Down here is a coroutine. It's called slow updates. And it says, while true, and once you've started it, it runs forever or until you get rid of all those game objects and start over. And this is where you check all of the stuff that you don't need to check absolutely every frame. Like, you can stop the audio from playing if the pitch is 0 anyway. If the bot is going off the side of the terrain, you can move it or zip it to the other side of the terrain, which is what we do. If there is a player that's still there and he hasn't been killed or something, you can check to see if there's anything between you and where the player is. And false means, or it's not even the player, it's checking for location of counterpart. So every time we get through here, when we go through here, there's this little thing in here that says yield return short wait, which means like wait for 1/10 of a second or something. When we get back around to this again, it's going to look in the direction of the counterpart, the one that you're looking for, and see whether it can see that one directly. If it can see that one directly, then we take this factor and we say that is the location where we last saw it. So if it can continue to see it, it will continue to update this. But if it stops being able to see it, then it will just remember where it last saw the one. And that gives us the behavior of we're playing with these guys and they have different opinions about where I should look because they saw the target, the one that we're looking for, in different places. And there's a reasoning factor that gets involved in working out how you can figure out where to go there. Now, if you are actually the one, meaning if the player movement your match is your match, you are the counterpart. You're looking to see if you can see yourself, and obviously you can. Then the location you'd be pointing to is actually the location of the player, plus a little randomness around the outside edge. What that means is if you are shooting zaps at the one that you're trying to reach, it shoots back at you. It zaps enthusiastically back at you, making high-pitched beeps, and it's a pretty little behavior of enthusiasm and cheerfulness. And then here we have the bit where the bot will start to update and be scrolling through that area, the texture of all the destinations. It's going to keep incrementing brain pointer, and it's waiting for an additional factor that's counting down. And if we get down to that factor, then that's where we will start making another beep, do an increment of the brain pointer so that we are going to a new location. And this bit here, we're checking when we get to the beep point of is the player separated from this one that might just be beeping by a terrain or not. If it's not, then we're doing a direct output. If it is, then we're going to try to put more reverb. And this is the same, basically a copy of the same thing. People would make functions out of this. I am used to seeing it right here. So there's multiple things you can do with this kind of thing. And again, we have these other features, positions and things like that. Here's a little detail which also helps them seem like they are individuals with personalities. If the audio source volume is not 0, it's a little bit higher than 0.1, and the audio source is playing and the game hasn't ended, then the color of this particular bot lights up. It becomes a brighter color. So as they beep, they also flash. And that also helps them seem a little more animated. You can tell which one is beeping because it's also blinking a little bit. There've been it's a complicated arrangement of all these different algorithms, and so it's always been a little weird managing these guys and making them act like people, because you'd tweak one thing and something else would happen. Here we have a simple distance check between you and the player, and this is my LOD. Now, the LOD is something that Unity has, but it was working buggy for me, so you just kind of do your own sometimes. And this is in the coroutine, so you don't have to check 60 times a second. And that's really important with having 1,000 of these running around and not having the frame rate just tank. If you don't, if you don't need to check whether the bot is near or far from you because the distance factors are like 30 world units or 90 world units or 180 world units, you don't have to check 60 times a second for that. Have it check maybe, a couple of times a second using this coroutine and going from there. And then lastly, we set up our sonar beep by, match distance is the distance between, well, if you are the one that the player is looking for, then we do this extra stuff. We set up the distance between. This is a countdown between firing off that ping noise. So I've multiplied it by 4. I've had it as also just a beep, and in that case, I didn't multiply it by 4, I square rooted it, because that made the beeps happen a lot faster, and the distant beeps were continually going off. You could kind of gauge the tempo as it went. And that would still be kind of cool, but I have a little musical theme now, so we're making it happen much more sporadically. And then as you approach it, it starts going bing, 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 and interrupting itself. And then again, here's a factor of the player doesn't necessarily know which bot it is. This bot could be one of hundreds, and we're iterating through it, and there's nothing specifically to say this one's the one that we keep track of, and there's no particular way of looking up like bot number 235. So basically, when we run through all the bots, when we get to this one and it knows what it is, and it goes, oh, I am the one that the person is looking for. I am your match, and that's the one the player is looking for. It tells the player where it is, and then the player movement now knows where it is, even though the player might not, but like your code does, your software part does. And it'll also tell whether the target is occluded so that it can put more reverb on that background music if there's a mountain in the way or something. The idea of that was when it was in a fast beeping, if you were scooting along somewhere and your counterpart was in a gully that maybe you were leaping over, you would have reverb, reverb, reverb. It would be maybe going faster and faster, and then as you jumped over the gully, it would suddenly be in the clear, and the beep would suddenly not have reverb, and then it would have reverb again, and you'd go, oh, what was that? I heard something different. And that would tell you it's within line of sight. Now, bear in mind that when we say line of sight, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I made a special icon for it. The green light relaunch, I really tried to do everything I could to make it be cool. So this was the desired icon. It was just scanning around in a loop. But bear in mind also that you can see through the terrain. It's just that the bots can't see through the terrain. So if you are looking for one that you know is bright yellow, and you see a yellow spot over there through the terrain, then you know you can go to it. But this guy, if he doesn't see through the terrain, he can't see the yellow bot, so he doesn't know where to direct you. And with all of that, I'm going on this little script here, trying to cover the stuff that I can so that I can move onwards and just put it out and let people play with it and have fun. I've covered scaling to thousands of bots with the coroutines. The art factor has a lot to do with fog and reverberation and senses of weight in this sort of bright wireframe looking world. The audio was supposed to be tracker music, but it always needed to be a sort of techno thumping kind of thing to go along with the theme of it. And it was not really, the game really didn't have it going on until it had the music happening, because it makes everything feel a little bit more sensible. And the trick with the design of this game is it needed all of those aspects firing in all cylinders. And even then, oh, there's one more detail. I forgot this detail. I got inspired by the game Quap in the process of going through this. I'll also check on my time. I've gone more than an hour, but I'll go as long as I need to. I was inspired by the game Quap, and so I did things like take the terrain, and I used to have it where you could sort of go past the edge of the terrain and onto another tile, which was the same thing. You basically scrolled through, and it looked like the world was infinite in size. It was cool, but it wasn't very gameplay useful, and also it made you fly up in the air for a reason I never figured out. And it still does so for the bots, by the way. So I thought I would change it to be more quapified, where if you fall off the edge of the world, and there's only the one world, so that is one terrain versus 9 terrains, which really grounds some computers to a halt. And if you fall off the edge, you die. You get stuck and the Guardian comes and it splats you. And that's tricky when it's steep terrain and there's the risk of bouncing up in the air or rolling down a hill and rolling off the terrain. So that poses an additional challenge. And once you discover in that quapified thing where you realize, like, oh, it just killed me, game over, I better remember that next time, you would learn to beware of falling off the edge of the universe, falling off the edge of that terrain. And it adds an additional level of challenge and interest. And it's, again, one of those things, sometimes I tease you, like, there is a setup screen where you have these different messages, and one of the messages is, have you fired at your Guardian lately? Well, if you fire at the Guardian, it attacks you. So don't do that, but I troll you by asking, like, oh, have you done this? And then you find out, like, oh, it roared and it attacked me, and then so on and so forth. But here is a key factor. Counterpart has level parameters that are down here. And these level parameters are being dictated by what's called residue sequences. What that means is you got your bot number, and that's the number of bots. It is the level number that you're at to the power of 2, modulus 900. So it'll go up to 900, or it'll go at the power of 2, so it's going to be like 2 and 4, 16, it gets larger very quickly. To the point where if it's 901, it's 1 again. Then if the bot number is less than 850, we're modulus 400. So most often the numbers are going to be less than 400, but occasionally you'll get a crazy go nuts number that's between 850 and 900. Since this is a factor of the level number, it's always going to be the same. And that means with those messages that I sent, which I scrolled past quickly because you're not supposed to read them, you're supposed to play the game and discover them, I can find a level, and the level has a million, billion, zillion bots in it, like 892 bots on it. And my advice for the level can be, good luck finding the one that you're looking at in this crowd. And it's the same thing with, say, the range that they go to. Residue sequence. It's still based off of the level number. And it's based off of the bot number because that's already somewhat randomified. And then we just manipulate that further. Like residue sequence, level number is the level number. Max level number is your high score. Residue sequence is already level number to the power of 4, mod 90125. That's a pretty high number. So we take that and to the power of 2, and then residue sequence that by level number to the power of 2, modulus 300 plus 10. So these algorithms, they're complicated and they always return the same result at each level number. Level 3 will always be this configuration of range of exploration, height of the terrain. The height of the terrain is already in there. The height of the terrain has a especially nasty twist in that it's modulus 999. That's really tall. And then if the terrain height is less than 900, we modulus right down to a third that tall. It still looks a little tall until you run into the crazy go nuts one, which I might try to show you later. But so there's these occasional ones that just emerge out of the residue sequences and produce unusual levels, like a level which is ridiculously unbearably tall. The jump height that you can jump with is also a factor of the terrain height. So you don't know that it's not going to doom you until you play the level, at which point you realize, like, oh, this isn't possibly high. Oh, but I can jump a little higher. And then when you jump a little higher, you also have to be careful of falling off the edge of the world and so on and so forth. There's a thing called Guardian Pissy Factor, and that is how aggressively the monster chases you. And it's a very strange feature. And then we have 500 levels. So if you go beyond 501, it's a kill you now level. It's a million, billion, zillion bots, larger than any other number. They're all clustered together, and the Guardian hates them being clustered together, hates them bumping into each other, and so it just basically goes rawr and kills you on a completely flat terrain where you can't hide. Because if you hide from the Guardian, it loses track of you. Also, the music volume is affected by all of this as well. Like, oh, there's a commented out bit where you can hit E and just skip ahead, skip ahead, skip ahead so that I could debug some of this stuff. But if the background music, if you're occluded, it'll be a different level, and the music is also kicks up in volume if the Guardian notices you and starts coming after you. You're alerted by suddenly bum dum bum dum bum. It's starting to go louder. So this is about the size of bits of video game objects all kind of crammed together there. In fact, I have another thing in here too, which is the noise generator from airwindows noise and the old voice of the spaceship plugin. I'm using that for the background sound of this game so that you have a certain amount of sort of ambience and atmosphere, and it's not a recording, but it's algorithmically generated, so it has more depth and lushness to it. And then as you climb the tall mountains, it gets louder. And the noise of you moving around is also this random noise. It's not a sample, it's being algorithmically generated. It's a factor of how fast you go. And with all of that, let's switch over to actually playing it 1 hour and 10 minutes in and have a look. Hopefully all this recording worked fine, as I've told you about pretty much all of the things that I was going to speak of, and it's time to see what I have made. You got this thing. We no longer fire to advance to the next level, but it says in the game, hit E to advance to the next level, so that's fine. The rest of this is basically still true. We've got a resolution and graphics quality type things. I can make it VSync, or I can make it high frame rate. And away we go. So that's pretty tall. And here we are in game. You only can control yourself by when you're touching the ground. So it is well to be cautious of where you jump, because you can go flying off somewhere that you don't even want to go. Also, you can knock yourself into the air or hit some of these edges and try to see. I'm going to try to jump up on there, and it's proving a little difficult, so maybe starting from here would be better. And I'll question some of these spots. Oh. Well, that's interesting, but nobody should be down there, so they're hallucinating. They're taking some bot mushrooms or something. Now, the rumbly noise that I heard... Oh, how about you? Have you seen anybody? That one has probably seen... Yeah, the beeps are high-pitched, so I should be going there. You know, this is how I would get up onto that if I needed to. And up. And here is the new version of the Guardian. It is this frameworks of wireframe glowy stuff around a black hole. And while it's not angry at me, I can more or less safely show you that part, hopefully. You hear the noise of approaching it. There it is, it's the black hole. And I don't want to be anywhere near that. And I don't want to run into the other bots because it will make the Guardian angry. I can kind of see it around there, the spheres that are concealing it. So my job is to ask questions. And I got a feeling that I'm a red color. Let's ask this blue color and see if it's low frequency beeps. Kind of low frequency beeps. Here's the one that's going to have a different type of... See, this guy's singing a different kind of song. Whereas... I can go up here and ask some of these guys. Different kind of voice, different kind of sound. I'm hearing the music heating up, so is this guy coming after me? Not right now. See, they all have different voices. You'll also notice this fellow is different enough for me that he's willing to lie. Some of his shots are going off this way instead. That's, he saw somebody over there, or he bumped into somebody who was there. And so he is lying to me. Whereas this fellow... Yeah, that's a pretty low frequency beep, so this guy might only be lying to me. Ah, and he was lying to me because that's where he was pointing, but now he was also pointing somewhere else. Now, what I'm really looking for is which guy, and I gotta be careful. He just hit the other one. I need to avoid running over these guys, because if I do, that thing is gonna go after me big time. So instead, and these have not seen the one that I'm looking for. This guy is kind of overly in my grill here, but I want to question these. Yep. And hear the bing. The Geiger counter is in place. And this is the one. In fact, he's running over to assist me. So if I was to bonk those guys up, and he just ran and touched me. Now, one interesting little side note is that when you win, all of the bots want to love you and be your friend. So you can hit E, but you don't have to hit E right away, and the Guardian will no longer kill you, even if, like I just did, I just killed... See, I just killed this one. It is dead. It will not light up any longer. This guy was originally a glowing sphere, but I like him better as a black hole. So they're all... everything is trying to grab me, including the Guardian. That's helpful. Come on. So I'm running away now. And I just killed another one, darn it. It's back over there. The Guardian is chasing me because it's mad here. There's probably still something I can do for that. If a Guardian is mad at me, I can get out of line of sight and it will calm down. Eventually. And maybe I'd better run away now. Let's try going up here. It's not gonna work. Okay, I'm swarmed again. But it's the thing you can do between levels is just try to gather all of these guys together. And you end up, you will be in the same place in the next level. Like if you go out to the farthest regions or something, you'll still be there. Also notice the textury effects there. That is done by taking a sphere and turning it inside out. I have a little program that causes the normals to be inside out. Now this Guardian is really angry, so you can see how fast they'll sometimes come at you. It's bad news if you're in-game, and in fact, let's be in-game. Here's a different height, and we'll see what we can do here. I might see whether we can get you to level 54, because that was the gotcha there. 54 is the level where it's my first crazy go nuts height of terrain level. Oh, I think I'm glad I didn't hit you. And that one has seen my target over here, unless it was lying. If it was lying, then I have a different goal. Ah, I pinged him and he's going this way. That's not very helpful at all. Things can also get kind of chaotic around here sometimes. Banana attack. Yeah, I think that fellow was lying to me. It's nowhere near here. Because, you know, banana attack sounds like a yellow color. And nobody around here has seen anything like what I'm looking for. So it's time to go and zip over to another place. Which I can do fairly fast, because part of the challenge of the game is that you can move awful fast, inconveniently fast sometimes. Now let's see whether anybody can help me here. Aha! You said, oh, that away or that away. Let's assume that you meant that away. See, it can be pretty challenging dealing with these high levels. Let's try this fella. Have you seen him? Also, I don't know whether this is one of the Angry Guardian levels. Aha! Good sign. You just lied to me. That's not where it is. No chance. No chance. It's gonna be over here. And I hope I didn't just hit you too hard. Ah, banana attack is going to be in this yellow looking section. The yellow ones will always hang around over here. We've got lots of these like glowy looking guys. And we're gonna continue to go over here. The one that I'm looking for has only one of it. So if I see, like, these guys like just hanging around in a little tight area. This guy is not even going to tell me the truth probably, but... So they're hanging around in the same area because they're the same breed of bot, and they're moving in a pack. This guy has many colors on him, so he's going all over the place. That can be useful because that means he sees more of the world, whereas the ones that are just plain will stay in pretty much the same place, and they won't have seen much. You can question the ones that have gone in many places, and I bet it's over here. Oh yeah, let's see now. I hear the sound. There you are. Banana attack. Looks like a slightly worn banana. Boom! There we go. Now, if you're near the edge, be careful they don't push you off the edge. There's all these, like, unforeseen consequences of this. And we are, in fact, quite near the edge. The edge is... Let's not go there right now. Let's hit E. The edge is here. You can see by the big sort of sphere-y thing. If I jump up, I can more safely view it. See, don't go off that. That is bad mojo. Part of the design was also about having these other lines underneath the terrain so that you have more of a 3D view and get a sense of space and size out of it all. Excuse me. Now, I hear guys over here being active, and I'm looking for Damn It Lime, which is not so far away from yellow, so they're probably going to tell me if they can. They're running into each other though. This is not a great place to be hanging out. So, how about you? Have you seen him? It's a nice, colorful one, but and that's also... Oh, he's lying at me. See, that is just lies. The one I'm looking for is actually more over here. And I'm sure that's going to continue guiding me right. Oh, look at that. That looks like a Damn It Lime. And ta-da, on to level 43. This is going to be a blue. It says it's called Dripping Blued. Sometimes it can get to the point where you recognize some of the names. Like I recognize the name Art Deco Stuckle Parrot. This is also a flatter terrain. And I don't see as many of these guys out here in the middle of nowhere, so let's go to the center. They might be in the center, or there might be not many of them. I don't know how many of these bots there are. Here's some. How about you? Because that's the thing, is you can't just go to where they're pointing. I mean, some of them are just going to lie to you, and some of them won't have seen the one you're looking for. I think it must be a dark color because that guy was very cooperative. And we'd better keep going this direction. How about this? Ah, yep. Again, it'll fire at you with a random sphere, so that's why it's like Spartan out like that. And ta-da, level 44. You might have to do some detective work. See, this is another tallish level, and I only have to go through 10 more of them in order to get to where I can show you the Crazy Good Nuts one. Unless the Guardian kills me, of course, that's the challenge. On the other hand, I am hearing... Aha! There we go. Whoop. 45, Grotesque. I remember Grotesque being one of those crazy, splotchy looking... Why are you all running this way? I think we have Stampede. What do they think they're doing? Is this one of the centralized ones? Oh, this is one of the centralized... Is this one of the centralized ones with an angry Guardian? Because these could be a bear. The Guardian gets upset when they smash into each other. So this is going to be very helpful. Hey, that away or that away. Oh! You are Grotesque. Boom! So yeah, if they were getting angry by the bots crashing into each other, the Guardian was, this would be a nasty level because they're all in the center here. And it gets very hectic. And it gets very fast and very noisy. And then if you have the Guardian, see, he's coming at me now. He can't hurt me, but he is coming at me now. You have the Guardian charging at you, and you're trying to not be hit by him. Because if you're hit by him, game over. Oh, looky, here we have a very busy level. With a lot of guys in it. But they have seen... Okay, where did you say again? Quickly, towards the Guardian. Come on, come on, come on, climb. Can you climb? You can't climb all that good. There we go. Let's not land on the bot, and... let's see whether any of these guys know where to go. That one will occasionally tell me something. This is pretty hectic and crowded. Oop, up here. I don't even know what that meant. No, the one that I'm looking for is not hiding beneath the terrain. I got a feeling maybe they're lying to me. Yeah, you're babbling. These guys are babbling. They're telling me nothing useful. So let's bounce up there, try to get some traction, go in here and see what these guys have to say. Not a lot. Zone out, zone out. I'm trying to remember what the pattern for zone out looked like. Let's ask this guy. This one I believe is Peacock. Something to do with Peacock. Those are high-pitched beeps. This one's telling me the truth. Yeah, that's very helpful. That one's telling me the truth. Here we have our ping. You're not even telling me the truth. How about you? That one's telling me multiple things, but I bet we're still going this direction. That's weird, but it looks like it's still telling me the same thing. And I hear the ping happening more often now. Yep, high-pitched beeps over here, I think. Those aren't helpful at all. I hear a ping again. good sign. How about this? Are you the one I'm looking for? No, but there's more pings. That's the one. So you see, this guy's right there. You can see him plainly. It's a very similar color. And I'm gonna get your attention so that you come and meet me. Hi there. Bing! On to level 47. Before these crazy things run me over again. 47. Great cathedrals. Okay, so I have no idea what location this is going for, because gray means, again, the quadrant, the sort of compass position of it is hue, and if they don't have hue, there's not a lot you can do except for go this way and see whether that guy was telling me the truth. I didn't quite make that. There's also an element of like skateboarder simulator here, like we can do crazy ollies on these big bouncy things. But be careful, because if you try to exaggerate it too much, you can end up shooting violently into the sky. I've never quite been able to get that bug sorted, so it becomes a sort of nasty gotcha. This does not have many bots in it. Really kind of doesn't. Who are you? More relevantly, can I question you? No, not very helpful. You, sir, are unhelpful. It's over here. I see another one sitting over there, I think. Oh, no, I guess I didn't. I was imagining it. So level 47 is very few bots in it, but here they are. That one fella, I guess, was just kind of stuck out there. He didn't want to go anywhere else. And it's fairly like... Yep, here we go. Gray cathedrals. That's what gray cathedrals looks like. Not super cooperative, but I'll still catch him. Oh, there we go. Level 40. Oh boy. 48 is... oh god. I see a guardian charging at me. This is not great. Let's run away. This is not going... You see, they can all see each other, and that's good. But the guardian can catch up to me real easily, and that's not good. So this might be a little distracting. Blue, blue. I want deep blue. And I want not to be killed by the guardian, because I want to get to level 54. There you are. Bing. Alright, guardian is now rendered safe, as you can see, because they didn't die just then. And here comes a bunch of colorful bots, and I'm moving on to level 49. Yeah, terrain blocks the line of sight for bots, as we've learned, but it is cover. I want to get to level 54. There's 500 levels. Not all of them, it's not linearly increasing in difficulty. But there's just weird gotchas here and there. Like the ones where there's only one bot, or the ones where the level is super tall, which I want to show you. There's one where the level is super tall and there's only one bot. Let's see. Oh, we're still going this direction, I guess. I prefer to have no limit on the amounts of shots you can fire, because you just want to be sort of expansive and have freedom doing something like this. Let's jump over here. There we go. And who is zone out? We're going to be close. I think I must have gone right past him. You. This one is zone out. And it's one that doesn't actually come to help you, but that also means that the Guardian is not being cranky and mad. If the Guardian is mad at you, then some of them will come to you when they realize you're after them. Damn it, Lime again. Okay. These are dark-looking guys, and I remember Damn it, Lime as being a bright colored. Those are green. That's a good sign. I'm going to try to question them from a distance. I can question them, but that doesn't mean they'll say anything. You are either... Oh, you could have been telling the truth, and that would mean that Damn it, Lime is over here. I think I see it. See that color? See that color? Now, I'm stuck in here, but I can still question it. And bingo. So now I'm questioning Damn it, Lime, and Damn it, Lime is responding by trying to get to me and by writing back. So please continue to do that behavior. There we go. On to level 51. Checker blur. Ah. So here's the deal. It says explore it here before catching this bot. I won't need to. But if you needed to see what the terrain was like, if I say going out here, there is only the one bot and he's hanging out in the center. So explore the terrain. And its little details, like don't be bounced into the air while going in this direction. And explore that before racing back and catching that bot in the middle. It's a little handy thing, and it comes out of the fact that it is a not random, but residue sequence generated. It can seem very random, but bing. Tall or flat, this one's more flat. The geometry is pretty much the same. And I'm looking for Ya. I'm not sure who Ya is. Is that... Okay, this may have been Ya. Yep. Level 53. Here we have the warning. Are you ready for a test? Win this level. And that would be Deco, I think, so it's a fairly... No, apparently not. How about you? Deco's over here somewhere. Oh, let's not be run over by this. How about you? Are you Deco? No, you're just lying to me. How about you? Are you Deco? No. I'm not sure that's true. I think that direction was the correct one. Deco, huh? Deco is going to imply a pretty complicated pattern. Or bright colors, or some combination thereof. How about you? Are you Deco? Nope, but I bet you're telling me the truth. Consistent with what I'm hearing. Aha! This looks like it might be Deco. Let's find out. Bingo. Let's find a test. Now remember, I have to hit E to go on to the next level. And I'm debating whether to do it from here or to go way the hell out here. Let's go way the hell out here. Just so you can get a better sense of what I'm contending with. And I gotta be careful not to fall off the edge of the world, But the terrain is always the same, it's just that the steepness of it is different. So if I hit E... That's interesting, huh? So we don't want to go falling off the edge and going down there. So let's head back into the center. And of course our commentary for this level is, "Oh, come on," which is actually a My Little Pony reference. Sweetie Belle goes, "Oh, come on!" And we'll go back here to catch our bot. You can see that we have a much bigger jump because we're going to need one, because look at the size of this. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that the terrain and everything and the friendliness of the monster are the same level to level, but it's always going to be a different bot each level. So if you get some guy that's hanging out on top of one of these things and isn't moving, you will have to find out how to climb this. And that is a pretty big ask. But you do get a bigger jump. In fact, we might even be able to go visit some of these guys, depending upon how high we can actually jump here, which may or may not be... No, I don't think I can get up there. Let's bounce around here. I'll try to get through here without killing anybody. Let's see now. I know where I'm going to want to go. Over this way. Over that way. Up. Can we get up? See, these are the challenges, is getting out of some of these holes. This is why the jump factor is as high as it is. Alright, I got out of there and out of there. Sorry, dude. So if I build up a little speed, I can probably take one of these ramps and boom, up here. There we go. So this is the challenge of the Oh Come On levels. Oh Come On are these super crazy high ones. And if I remember correctly, you can hear a bit of the rumble of the air jumping that high. Our target was over here somewhere. So on we go, and there we are. Whoop. And we have successfully completed level 55 of 501 or thereabouts. And they say if you survived that, you know how to jump. And that is true. Now what I was looking to do was some kind of funky thing like this, whoop, jump up to the top, and okay, that's not gonna lead me anywhere. Oh, kind of got a busy Morocco, huh? You see, this could be a crowded game. All of these guys are thinking of places to go and pursuing their own little body dreams there. So when they're all clustered together like this, it can be more than a little challenging. And you can just be asking them like, okay, where shall I go? And since we're all kind of centered, I think we're all going... We're in here. They're expecting to find somebody that's in here. The last they saw him was jumping over now, what would Morocco even look like? Well, we're looking down this direction. Also, if you jump, you may land on a bot, which you wouldn't necessarily want to do. Up, pay dirt. I have a feeling we're getting in the right zone. Listen to that Geiger counter go. Bing. Oh yeah. Okay, so Morocco is you. I'm not sure why that looks like Morocco. That's liquid eye strain, I remember now. But we go on to Ocean Light Blue. This apparently is a chill out level. It's also a very flat level, a very empty level. So I guess what we'll do is we'll zoom around and not fall over the edge, which is right there. And there's probably just the one. Or no, there's more than one. But they're all hanging out in the center. See if anybody wants to direct me. That's just a filthy lie. Or is it? Nope, I see light bluer ones here, so maybe it's not. Those sounded like high-pitched beeps. I think they're telling the truth. There you are, or are you? Yep, that's the one. Ocean Light Blue. And level 57. And this apparently is another fairly chilled out level. It's got mountains, but they're not super high. It's got a bunch of bots, but not overwhelming numbers, and the Guardian seems to not be too touchy. So what we're going to do is take advantage of one of the features of this game. If you quit at this point, not having won the level, it sets you back to level 0. If you quit after having won the level, easy there guys, running into each other, then you can resume the next time you play where you left off. So you gotta get to the point where you've won the level in order to... There we go. I think we're going this direction. Sounds like it. Venetian Glow. Are you Venetian Glow? Yes, you totally are. See, it looks a little bit like Venetian blinds, but they're all glowing. And by contrast, you see, if we compare Venetian Glow, which we are, to this purely red bot, the beeps are all complicated because it's comparing the very simple looking one to Venetian Glow, which is very complicated. Bing. And so here we are in the end screen. They're all going to try to climb the mountains to get to me, and some of them may even succeed. There's a cluster of yellow ones trying to reach me. And I'm going to climb to the top of the hill, and I'm going to quit out of here and bid you good night. Oh, some of them got me. Some of them reached. It'll make it difficult for me to balance. Over we go. I just killed a bunch of them there. That's sad. But we got the whole bots carrying you on their shoulder thing, so that's cool. Yeah, did I show you the dead bots? That's what a dead bot looks like. It doesn't light up, it doesn't zip around, it just rolls. And that's a very angry guardian, but I won, so I'm immune. Yeah, if you kill the bot, it's bad news with the guardian. You want to avoid ever doing that. You can see the guardian from its auras from a far distance away. And you can hear it by the music pumping up and becoming more aggressive. So, ta-ta for now. And I hope you, I haven't even been looking at you, I've been looking only at the screen. I hope you enjoy the game Counterpart after this, how many hours is it? 2-hour long rundown of all the things that went into it. It's been a year or two out of my life, off and on, while I've been doing other stuff, and it's the first game. Because it's the first game, I can probably expect that further games that I do will be easy and I'll have more of a clue, or easier, and I'll have more of a clue, and I might be able to reach people more easily. But this has been very interesting all the same, developing Counterpart. And I'm putting it out for free. It's going to be linked on this post on the Airwindows website. And it'll also be linked in the Game of Sutra post that I'm going to make out of this. And I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.